Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. We'll be exploring core concepts in geography, focusing on human-environment interaction. On this first slide, we're setting the stage for what's to come. Over the next few slides, we'll dive into how humans and their environments influence each other, shaping the world around us. Let's get started. Let's take a quick look at the contents of today's presentation. We'll start with the objectives, which will guide everything we discuss. Then, we'll explore the relationship between our environment and natural resources, understanding how they are interconnected. Moving on, we'll examine natural resources themselves, including fossil fuels, and consider their impacts on our planet. We'll also look at land use and how human activities affect the environment. Next, we'll delve into how people impact the environment and what we can do about it. We'll also cover the process of extracting resources and the challenges involved. Finally, we'll discuss how to find the best solutions to balance resource use with environmental protection. Throughout this presentation, our goal is to understand these key points and see how they all connect to the bigger picture of sustainable resource management. Let's take a closer look at our objectives for today. First, understanding environmental needs is fundamental. People rely on the environment to meet essential needs like food, shelter, and energy. These are basic requirements that sustain us and shape how we interact with our surroundings. Next, it's important to recognize that both environmental and economic needs influence how we use land. Our choices about land use are often driven by a combination of ecological resources and economic considerations, which can sometimes be in tension or harmony. Finally, I want to emphasize the difference between renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources, like solar energy or forests, can replenish naturally over time, whereas non-renewable resources, such as minerals or fossil fuels, are finite and can be exhausted. Understanding this distinction is key to making sustainable decisions. Overall, these points help us grasp how intertwined our needs are with environmental health, and they set the stage for exploring how we can manage resources responsibly. Today, I want to talk about the environment and the resources we rely on. Humans depend heavily on our natural environment to survive and thrive. We need it to provide essential things like energy, water, food, and other materials that keep us going. If we look back to prehistoric times, people lived in areas where they could hunt and gather food directly from nature. As time went on, they moved to regions with pastures and fertile soils, which made farming possible and allowed populations to grow. Today, thanks to rapid transportation and advanced technology, we're less dependent on the environment right next to us. We can access resources from all over the world. But even with these advancements, the truth remains that we still need access to natural resources to sustain our way of life. And speaking of resources, I want to highlight something recent. Remember how we lacked rain this summer. That was a crucial reminder of how much we depend on natural weather patterns to replenish our water supplies and support agriculture. It shows that even with modern technology, we're still vulnerable to environmental changes. So, understanding our relationship with the environment and the resources it provides is key, especially as we think about how to protect and manage these resources responsibly for the future. Now, let's talk about natural resources. Water is a great example of a natural resource, which simply means a useful material that we find in our environment. But it's not just water. There are many other resources that people depend on every day. Some natural resources are renewable, meaning they can be replaced naturally or by human effort over time. Think of trees for paper or wind for energy. These are resources that Earth or we can replenish. On the other hand, there are non-renewable resources, like fossil fuels or minerals, which can't be replaced easily or quickly, if at all. This distinction is really important because it impacts how we manage and conserve these resources to ensure they're available for future generations. Overall, understanding the difference helps us appreciate the value of natural resources and the need to use them wisely. Let's talk about fossil fuels. These are non-renewable resources, which means they take millions of years to form. They originate from the remains of ancient plants and animals that have been buried and transformed over a very long time. The main types of fossil fuels we rely on are coal, natural gas, and petroleum. They're incredibly important for our energy needs, powering everything from electricity to transportation. However, the key point to remember is that once we use up these resources, they're gone forever. That's why it's so important to think about sustainable alternatives and how our choices impact the environment and future generations. Let's talk about energy resources, which are really crucial for almost everything we do. Some energy sources, like wind and sunlight, are renewable, meaning they won't run out as long as the Earth exists. These sustainable options are becoming more important as we look for ways to reduce our environmental impact. However, today, our main reliance is on non-renewable resources such as coal and petroleum. These have powered our industries, transportation, and homes for a long time. The key point here is that because these resources are non-renewable, they are limited. Eventually, the Earth will run out of them, which raises important questions about our future energy needs. This connects to the bigger theme of sustainability and the importance of shifting towards renewable energy sources to ensure a healthier planet for generations to come. Land use is really shaped by both the natural environment around us and the culture of the people living there. You see, in different regions, how we use land has changed quite a bit over time. For example, in areas with temperate climates and rich, fertile soil, people tend to focus on farming and agriculture. That's their main way of using the land. On the other hand, in Arctic regions, where the environment is much harsher, land is often used for hunting and gathering instead. These differences show how the natural surroundings influence what's practical or necessary for the people who live there. Another important concept is colonization, which is when new settlers move into an area and bring their culture with them. This movement of people and ideas can significantly change how land is used, blending or sometimes replacing existing practices. All of these points tie back to the bigger picture, how environment and culture together shape land use, which is a key part of understanding human adaptation and development across different regions. People's impact on the environment is a really important part of understanding how our daily lives are connected to the natural world. All of us need basic things like food, water, clothing, and shelter to live and thrive. To get these essentials, we often have to use materials from our environment, whether that's farming land, water sources, or natural resources. Because of this, our everyday activities, like farming, building, or even just using water, can have significant effects on the environment. It's crucial to realize that even small, everyday choices can add up and cause impacts such as pollution, deforestation, or resource depletion. This slide reminds us that our actions are interconnected with the environment, and being aware of this helps us make better decisions. It's a key part of the overall theme that we all share responsibility for protecting the planet while meeting our needs. Now, let's talk about extracting resources. People extract, or remove, many kinds of natural resources from their environment to meet their needs. For example, cutting down trees to get wood is a common way to extract resources. While this is useful, it's important to remember that extracting resources can sometimes harm ecosystems and the environment. Deforestation, which is the loss of forest cover in a region, is a clear example of this impact. It can lead to habitat loss and other ecological problems. Another example is drilling oil wells and transporting oil. This process can cause serious environmental issues, such as oil spills. A well-known incident is the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico on April 20, 2010, which had devastating effects on marine life and local communities. Overall, while resource extraction is essential for our daily lives and economic growth, it's crucial to consider the environmental consequences and work towards more sustainable practices. When we think about how people impact the environment, we often focus on activities like growing food or producing goods and services. These activities are essential for our daily lives, but they can also have unintended effects. For example, when farmers use fertilizers to help their crops grow, Some of that fertilizer can wash into the water or seep into the soil, causing pollution. This is a key point because it shows how human activities can unintentionally harm the environment. Another important concept here is pollution itself, which is a spillover effect. That means the pollution from one activity can affect others who aren't directly involved. For instance, pollution from farming can impact nearby water sources or air quality, even if those waterways or air aren't part of the farming process. Overall, this slide reminds us that our activities have broader impacts, and understanding these spillover effects helps us see the bigger picture of human-environment interactions. Now, when we look for the best solutions, the goal is to find a balance. People try to increase the positive effects of using resources, like promoting economic growth, while also working to decrease the negative effects, such as pollution. For example, using a resource might boost our economy, but it can also create pollution that we need to reduce to protect the environment. It's important to remember that solving these issues is a team effort. People, governments, and businesses all have a role to play in making smarter choices about resource use. By working together, we can find ways to use resources more wisely and sustainably. For instance, on this slide, you see wind turbines in Canada. These turbines are a great example. They convert wind energy into electricity, providing a clean and renewable energy source. This shows how innovative solutions can help us meet our energy needs while reducing environmental harm. Overall, finding the best solution means balancing economic and environmental interests, and collaboration is key to achieving that balance.